When I was 8 years old, I was abducted by human traffickers while trying to save my childhood sweetheart. 10 years later, when I came back, there was a fake daughter by my childhood sweetheart's side who bore a 7-point resemblance to me. She walked into my home openly and hugged my parents affectionately. Later, I caught the fake daughter calling the human traffickers mom and dad and discussing the plan to abduct me again. In a panic, the fake daughter ran me over with a car and killed me, and my childhood sweetheart even helped her cover up the evidence of the crime and threw my body into the sea. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the time when the human traffickers were about to abduct my childhood sweetheart. I thought carefully. There seemed to be a little boy in the orphanage not far away who looked quite like my childhood sweetheart. One little boy. My foot is sprained, could you please take me to the hospital? Ouch, I can't move, I really can't move. Yan Xiao was warm-hearted. As soon as he heard this voice, he couldn't walk away. Grandma, aren't your family members with you? Can't you walk? Come on, I'll carry you on my back. TSK, look, how willing he is to help others. Whoever saw this scene wouldn't sigh and label Yan Xiao as a good person. But how could such a warm-hearted and handsome young man just stand by and watch me being abducted by human traffickers without doing anything in the previous life? Yan Xiao carried the grandma and walked towards the road. While walking, he turned back and urged me, Ji, hurry up, aren't you coming? At the age of 8, Yan Xiao was still thin and small. He struggled a bit and lifted the grandma up higher on his back. Ed and then stopped. My stomach suddenly hurts a lot. You go first. I'll come to find you later. After saying that, I directly ran in the opposite direction, but since God gave me a chance to start over, how could I miss such a satisfying scene? According to the memories of my previous life, I first ran to a building. The position was just right to see the alley where I was abducted in the previous life. The hospital was not far away, and there were quite a lot of people on the road, but it was already getting dark. It took Yan Xiao a while to walk slowly with the grandma on his back. Grandma, why don't you get down and walk for a while? You're so heavy. The grandma didn't answer but took out a handkerchief from her pocket. In my previous life, when I realized something was wrong, I directly snatched the handkerchief and threw it on the ground, then grabbed Yan Xiao and ran. My actions annoyed the human traffickers hiding in the dark. The other 2 men rushed out instantly to catch us. In the end, he managed to escape, and I became the only victim. This time, I stood by the window in the corridor and coldly watched everything happening below. The handkerchief was put over Yan Xiao's nose, but Yan Xiao reacted quickly and directly threw the grandma off his back. His body swayed twice, holding his head, and with a fierce expression, he said a few words and then tried to run. It seemed that he also realized something was wrong, but it wasn't that easy to run away. 2 men blocked his way. One in front and one behind. They quickly picked him up around the waist. When I faintly heard a few cries for help, I slowly curled up the corners of my lips. Yan Xiao downstairs looked in the direction where I was while struggling. When our eyes met, I smiled and waved at him. Help, Ji. Please save me quickly. Save him. I saved him in the previous life, but I died, too. I deliberately wandered outside for an extra hour before going back crying. But my parents didn't care much when they saw me crying. They just said, did you fight with Yan Xiao again? I've told you so many times, a girl should act like a girl. I got tired of listening and started crying even louder with a wow. Dad, Mom, has Yan Xiao come home? I can't find him. At this, my mom was so shocked that her phone fell to the ground. What, weren't you 2 out together? Come with me to the neighbor's house and check right away. My parents pulled me to the Yan family's house in a hurry. As soon as they entered, they asked, is Yan Xiao here? Dear mother-in-law, are you out of your mind? Yan Xiao went out to play with Gigi. Yan Xiao and I grew up together since we were children. We were real childhood sweethearts, so the parents of our 2 families would tease each other and call each other dear in-laws. But seeing me crying so hard that my tonsils were almost showing, his parents also got worried. Gigi, why are you alone? Where's Yan Xiao? I cried and said, he was taking an old grandma to the hospital. I had a stomachache and ran to the bathroom, but later I went to the hospital and looked for him for a long time, but I didn't see him or that grandma. His parents staggered, grabbed their coats, and ran out. My parents followed closely behind. Don't be too anxious. Maybe the child was just having fun and forgot the time. We'll go look for him with you. Don't you know the director of the police station? Call the police and check the surveillance right away. To make the act complete, I deliberately wailed and went home. As soon as I entered the house, I instantly wiped away my tears with a blank expression. This was why I had to stay out for an hour before going home. Both of our families had a bit of money and resources. What if they checked the surveillance and actually rescued Yan Xiao? I had to at least buy the human traffickers some time to leave the city, otherwise, how could I plan what to do next? 3. The desperate and shocked look in Yan Zhao's eyes when he was abducted was exactly the same as mine in the previous life. In the previous life, because of my unexpected appearance, the human traffickers had some difficulty catching the two of us. We desperately ran towards the place with light outside the alley. When we were about to be caught, Yan Xiao pushed me. I fell hard. I desperately begged him to give me a hand. Yan Xiao, pull me up quickly, please. Once we got out of this alley, it was a busy road, and both of us could go home safely. The human traffickers were getting closer and closer. I stretched out my hand to Yan Xiao almost pleadingly, but Yan Xiao looked at behind me, gritted his teeth, and ran away without looking back. Yan Xiao. I was so scared that I started crying and crawled forward with my hands and feet, but in the end, I was pulled back by the leg by the human traffickers. At that time, I naively thought that Yan Xiao would find someone to come back and save me after he ran out, but until I was tortured by those two human traffickers with animal instincts in the alley for over half an hour. Yan Xiao didn't bring anyone back, you little brat, for meddling in other people's business. Originally, we didn't think much of you, you little girl. You had to be talkative, you had to be so cheap. Well, are you satisfied now, at the age of 8? I was in so much pain that I fainted several times. I could only feel the two men slapping me one after another. Yan Xiao, why, obviously, if you had given me a hand, both of us could have run out. Even if you had brought someone back to look for me, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Later, I was sold to a remote mountainous area where nothing grew. I endured hardships for 10 years before I could return home. But when I came back, there was a girl in my family who bore a 7-point resemblance to me out of nowhere. She walked into my home openly and hugged my parents affectionately. Just as I was hesitating to step forward, she looked at me in surprise. Dad, Mom, Brother Xiao, this sister smells so bad. She doesn't have any dirty diseases, does she? She said the most vicious words with an innocent look on her face. Just like that, my parents, who were originally immersed in the joy of getting me back, suddenly changed their attitude towards me, and Yan Xiao loathed me to the extreme. I thought that as long as I was good to them, they would eventually accept me, but unexpectedly, what I heard were their cold voices. If you had died outside, you would have always been the white moonlight in everyone's heart. Why did you come back to disgust us? Later, I caught the fake daughter calling those human traffickers mom and dad and discussing the plan to abduct me again. In a panic, the fake daughter ran me over with a car and killed me, and Yan Xiao even helped her cover up the evidence of the crime and threw my body into the sea. Since he was so heartless, there was nothing wrong with me not saving him when he was in danger. Right, what goes around comes around. In this life, it's his turn to experience the feeling of everyone eyeing you covetously in the mountains. By the way, Yan Xiao is handsome and belongs to the clean and thin type. Those desperate old men like this kind the most. 4. They searched for a whole night before coming back. As soon as they pushed open the door, Yan Zhao's parents grabbed my arm and asked, Gigi, think carefully again. What did the person who asked Yan Xiao to carry her look like? Draw it for Auntie. She pinched my arm and shook me hard. Draw it for me. I was stunned for a moment, then pouted and started crying as if I was scared. I don't remember either. I was in a hurry to go to the bathroom because of my stomachache. Dad, Mom, have you found Yan Xiao? At this moment, the more heartbroken I seemed to be crying, the happier I actually was in my heart. According to the situation in the previous life, Yan Xiao should almost be in the mountains by now. My parents wiped my tears for me, and then looked at Yan Zhao's parents, hesitating to speak. In the end, they still shook their heads. The 4 parents all sat on the sofa with dull eyes. Yan Zhao's parents were like marionettes who had lost their souls. Only when the phone rang each time did their eyes light up a bit. Have you found him? Looking at their sad appearance, a trace of mockery flashed in my eyes. It's just a lost child, it doesn't matter, it will be okay after a while. In the previous life, Yan Xiao found an adopted daughter for my parents. In this life, of course, I will also help his parents get out of their pain. I stroked my chin and thought carefully. There seemed to be a little boy in the orphanage not far away who looked quite like Yan Xiao. When he comes back, there will also be a fake young master in the family who has been raised almost perfectly. They should be happy, right? 5. Half a month passed, And the Yan family used all their connections but still couldn't find Yan Xiao. Yan Zhao's parents were immersed in grief every day and had lost a lot of weight in half a month. I looked heartbroken and went to the neighbor's house to accompany them every day. Uncle, Auntie, I'm sorry, if I hadn't gone to the bathroom, would Yan Xiao not have been lost? If I had known that person was a human trafficker, I would have desperately stopped him from doing good deeds. I deliberately said this to find a topic. Yan Zhao's parents looked at me, opened their mouths, and tears fell before they could say anything. With my persistence, after another week, they finally accepted this fact. Silly child, how could we blame you? It was right that you didn't go. If you had gone, I'm afraid you would also. It's all my fault and your uncle's. We only told him to be willing to help others, but we forgot that there are damned human traffickers in this world. As they said this, the two of them hugged each other and cried again. I had been accompanying them for almost a month, and I was already used to the scene in front of me. When they cried, I would quietly go to the kitchen and make them some simple white porridge. After they finished crying, I would bring it up. Uncle, Auntie, eat something. What if there's news about Yan Xiao? You'll still have a lot to do then. Under my persuasion, they could eat a little. Day after day, I gradually integrated into their family in a subtle way, making them regard me as a confidant and a spiritual support, until the day I deliberately didn't go. And they couldn't wait to come to my house to find me. I knew I had succeeded. After calming down their emotions, I proposed, Uncle, Auntie, how about I accompany you to take a walk in the nearby park? Staying at home all the time will drive people crazy. Okay, Gigi, we'll listen to you. I curled up the corners of my lips and slowly said okay. 6. I accompanied them to wander around the park seemingly aimlessly. Yan Zhao's mother held my hand tightly and told me about Yan Zhao's childhood as we walked. Yan Xiao was born on the same year, month, and day as you, and our houses are next to each other. We've always thought that you two were destined. Gigi, do you know what Yan Zhao's baby item is? I asked as if I was interested. What? A boy as old as Yan Xiao actually has a baby item? A trace of a smile flashed in Yan Zhao's mother's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by that trace of sadness. It's funny to say, his baby item is the saliva towel you used when you were a baby. I don't know how he picked it up. Since then, he has to hug it every night when he sleeps. Yan Xiao likes you the most. I didn't say anything. Does he like me? If he likes me, why didn't he save me when I was in danger in the previous life? If he likes me, why did that fake daughter who came later replace me? Just as I was thinking, Yan Zhao's parents suddenly stopped in their tracks. Yan Xiao. They let go of my hand and ran towards the boy sitting on the bench not far away at the same time. Yan Xiao, why didn't you go home? Son, Mom and Dad were so worried about you. Woohoo, Yan Xiao, you're trying to scare us to death, aren't you? The boy who was tightly hugged was at a loss because of their enthusiasm. I nodded at him. This was the purpose of my bringing them to this park. Ke Wang, the boy from the orphanage. He bore an 8-point resemblance to Yan Xiao. With this face and the behaviors and habits of Yan Xiao that I taught him, it was enough for him to live in the Yan family. 7. Yan Zhao's parents were very disappointed when they found out that Ke Wang wasn't Yan Xiao, but I was there. Uncle, Auntie, don't you think this is fate? He really looks like Yan Xiao. However, brother, where do you live? Why haven't I seen you before? Can we play together often in the future? Ke Wang lowered his head and said in a low voice, I'm an orphan from the orphanage. Out of the corner of my eye, Yan Zhao's parents' eyes lit up. I then timely gave them an excuse. Uncle, Auntie, this is simply fate. It's so wonderful. We live so close to the orphanage but have never met him, and Yan Xiao just now. Uncle, Auntie, would you like to? How could they refuse? Desperate people will want to hold on tightly to anything they see. People who look similar to their son are not common. In the end, they still brought Ke Wang back to the Yan family and named him Yan Qing. The next day, Yan Qing came to me, after a long silence. He asked me, why are you helping me so much? How did you know they would definitely take me in? I tried my best to look innocent. Because Uncle and Auntie's original son was abducted by human traffickers, you look so much like him. I hope you study hard and don't let Uncle and Auntie down. As long as he behaves himself and doesn't cause trouble, he will be a child of the Yan family in the future. By then, his life will change dramatically, just like that of the fake rich daughter. I'm so looking forward to it. I hope time passes quickly. I wonder what expression Yan Xiao will have when he comes back 10 years later and sees someone has taken his place at home. 8. With Yan Qing around, the sadness of Yan Zhao's parents seemed to have a place to go. He was a well-behaved and sensible person. He basically won them over 2 weeks after arriving home. They would even bring Yanqing to my house for a dinner party. My mom looked at Yanqing with a smile. This child is so nice. It's a pity he's an orphan. Meeting you guys now is his good fortune. Yanqing seems to be about the same age as our Gigi. Where did he go to school before? After asking, Uncle and Auntie looked at me. Gigi, Uncle and Auntie actually wanted to talk to you about this today. We want to transfer Yanqing to your noble school. I'm afraid he won't get used to it just after going there. How about putting him in the same class as you? Please help Auntie take care of him. I agreed without hesitation. Sure, in this way, wouldn't I have more time to get in touch with Yanqing? The next day, Yanqing came to our class. However, this circle is only so big, and almost everyone knows that Yanqing is the adopted son of the Yan family. Children from wealthy families have always been good at sizing people up. They started to test Yanqing intentionally or unintentionally, seeing that he hadn't firmly established his position in the Yan family yet. They began to exclude and bully him. I saw all of this but didn't interfere. It was not until a week later that I stepped in when Yanqing was being bullied. After all, only when he is bullied and then saved will Yanqing be grateful to me. After school, he was blocked in a corner again. I squeezed in from behind. Then, pretending not to understand their bullying, I said, Yanqing, why are you still playing here? Didn't Uncle and Auntie sign you up for tutoring classes to study and help them share their worries earlier? Yanqing blinked and was confused for a moment. Fortunately, he wasn't stupid. He knew I was speaking deliberately for these people and didn't expose me. The others were all stunned. Ah, Gigi, are you kidding? Is the Yan family going to hand over the company to this adopted son? I tilted my head and smiled. Otherwise, what else can they do? Yan Xiao has disappeared. Now Uncle Yan only has this one son. Who else can he give it to if not Yanqing? The crowd looked at each other and consciously made way for us. See you tomorrow. Yanqing and I walked side by side, and he remained silent all the way. It was not until we were almost home that he said, "Thank you today." Before I could say you're welcome, he added, "I know you were helping me out. Don't worry, I won't covet what doesn't belong to me. I took so much trouble to bring him in. Not to make him so harmless." 9. I stopped and looked back at him. Why not covet it? Yanqing seemed to be stunned by my question. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say for a long time. I looked at him seriously. The opportunity is right in front of you. Don't you know how to cherish it? Do you want to be bullied all the time? Yanqing frowned, and a different emotion flashed in his beautiful eyes. I averted my eyes. He looked so much like Yan Xiao, but I'm an adopted son. Yan Xiao will come back sooner or later. So what if you're an adopted son? I retorted. They don't care whether it's a biological child or an adopted one. What they value most is what's beneficial to the family. Besides, what about feelings? Before I was 8 years old, my parents doted on me alone. They wished they could hold me up to the sky, but when I came back in a sorry state 10 years later, didn't they still stand with the fake rich daughter and abandon me like a worn-out shoe? They disliked that I was dark and thin and couldn't be presented in public. They thought I had completely forgotten all the social etiquette I had learned before and would make them a laughingstock if I was taken out, even at a dinner party with more than 20 people. Just because my chopsticks fell to the ground, my dad told me to get out in public. But Mom and Dad, for the past 10 years, my hands and feet were always tied with ropes. I had to bury my face in the bowl to eat. If I didn't eat, I would starve to death. For me, so-called etiquette was the first thing I abandoned. It was already very difficult for me to come back alive. Feelings will fade. Whether to seize this opportunity is up to you. After saying that, I went home one step ahead. In this life, I will only focus on interests. 10. Probably what I said to Yanqing worked. He really became more and more like a rich second generation day by day. Whenever he had something he wasn't sure about, he would come to ask me. He no longer cowered in front of anyone. Over the past few years, in addition to learning golf, shooting, equestrianism, and piano, he also learned financial knowledge and business administration thoroughly. He grew into a more outstanding existence than the real Yan Xiao. After he won another project for the Yan family, I waited for him outside the meeting room. As soon as he came out, a bunch of flowers was handed to him again. Congratulations on winning another big deal. Yanqing held the flowers in one hand and naturally took my bag with the other. Stop teasing me, future female tycoon, let's go home. I smiled and didn't say anything. Over the years, not only has Yanqing proven himself in various fields, but I'm also not far behind. By the way, the college entrance examination is coming soon. Which university do you want to go to? I answered without hesitation, a university in this city. Yan Qing looked at me. What a coincidence, so do I. Looking at the receding night view outside the window, I slowly curled up the corners of my lips. 10 years are almost over. I have been committed to improving myself. I have gradually taken over the contacts, resources, and family business from my parents. And Uncle Yan has gradually let Yan Qing take over the family business in addition to his studies. Although he is young, he can complete each task excellently. As a result, everyone in the circle knows that the Yan family has found a blessing in disguise and adopted a son who is intelligent and hard-working, coupled with his outstanding appearance and tall figure. This guy even became popular on the internet by accident, although he doesn't plan to make a living in the internet field. He has gained 10 million followers with just a bare account with no content. Calculating the time, Yan Xiao should be coming back soon, but in any case, Yan Qing has more than one way out. Besides, at that time, it's not certain who Yan Zhao's parents will side with. I must stay in this city to watch this big show. 11. On the day the college entrance examination ended, Uncle Yan's family and my parents took us out to celebrate. Everyone was beaming with joy. And there was not a trace of gloom on the faces of Yan Zhao's parents. We didn't go home until the middle of the night. Uncle, Auntie, see you tomorrow. We waved and said good night. But as soon as the words were out of our mouths, a sinister voice came from not far away. Who is he? Yan Zhao's parents answered without hesitation, Yan Qing, our son. Under the street lamp, a person in slightly ragged clothes stomped his feet in frustration and roared, if he's your son, then what am I? Everyone was stunned, and the things in Yan Zhao's parents' hands also fell to the ground. My parents looked at each other, and the hands that were about to open the door silently retracted. Only I couldn't help laughing. I've been waiting for so long. He's finally back. When I saw the girl next to him, my hand hanging by my side suddenly clenched tightly. Anai Yuan, the adopted daughter of my parents in the previous life. She was afraid that her status would be in danger because I came back home. So she framed me several times and finally ran me over and killed me. The fake rich daughter. I would recognize her even if she turned to ashes. Yan Xiao rushed forward like crazy and looked at Yan Qing. He roared loudly and questioned, I was lost, not dead. Do you have me, your son, in your hearts at all? I ate pig excrement in that god-forsaken place, while you were having fun at home and even found someone to replace me. Yan Zhao's parents were so stunned that they didn't come to their senses. Actually, it's no wonder they were like this. Yan Xiao looked completely different now. His hair was greasy and stuck together. There was a scar on his dark face. His neck was dirty, and obvious dirt could be seen, looking like a black wheel. Speak, say something. I'm back. I'm the child of this family. Tell this guy to get out. As he said this, Yan Xiao started to push and shove Yan Qing. At this time, Yan Zhao's parents finally reacted. They subconsciously blocked Yan Qing behind them. Shower, why are you back? Yan Xiao laughed out of anger with red eyes. Shouldn't I come back? Fine, then I'll leave. At this moment, Xiaoen, who had been silent all this time, pulled Yan Zhao's arm. Uncle, Auntie, Yan Xiao has suffered a lot of grievances in the years since he was abducted. It's understandable that he's sad to see this scene when he comes home. Just look at the scars on his body to know how hard his life has been. There were scars all over Yan Zhao's belly and back. I knew exactly where these scars came from. They were nothing more than from being whipped. If he didn't listen, he was beaten. If he resisted, he was beaten. If he tried to escape, he was beaten even harder. Yan Zhao's mother's tears fell instantly. She wanted to hug Yan Xiao, but the hand she stretched out never landed. It's good that you're back. Let's go home first. You go take a bath and feel comfortable. By the way, look at Gigi. You two haven't seen each other for a full 10 years. Gigi has become more and more beautiful. Before she could finish speaking, Yan Xiao rushed towards me with gritted teeth. 12. I deliberately didn't dodge, but Yan Qing hugged me and dodged Yan Zhao's attack. And Ji, you such a bitch also deserve to live in this world. You die for me. I'm going to kill you. Everyone was frightened by his appearance. I also pretended to be pitiful and innocent, shivering and hiding behind my parents. Yan Xiao, why are you saying such vicious words to me as soon as you come back? Of course I knew why. Back then, I also watched him being taken away. Yan Xiao pointed at my nose and cursed at me, saying that I would come to no good end, that I was worse than a pig or a dog, saying that he was abducted because of me. I didn't defend myself at all. I just looked at him with a stunned and hurt expression throughout. Just like no one believed me in the previous life, now no one believes him either. During the time he was away, I was almost like half a daughter of the Yen family, who would believe his nonsense. Sure enough, seeing that he couldn't persuade Yen Zhao's father kicked over the trash can next to him and then pointed at him and scolded loudly, "Stop going crazy here." At that time, we checked the surveillance. "You were stupid enough to be deceived. What does it have to do with Gigi? Go home quickly." Yen Xiao still wanted to say something, but his father added, "If you don't go home, get out. From now on, I'll pretend I don't have a son like you." Finally, Xiaoen gently touched Yen Zhao's arm, only then did he relent. "Fine, I'll go home, but this is Xiaoen, my girlfriend, she has to stay at home with me." Only then did this farce end, but before entering the door, Xiaoen looked back at me. The hatred in her eyes made me confused. If anyone should hate, it should only be me hating her. Could it be that she was also reborn? 13. The next day, Yan Qing and I made an appointment to prepare for the relevant matters of the art exhibition. After thinking for a while, I deliberately went to the neighbor's house. "Uncle, Auntie, how is Yen Xiao?" As soon as Yen Xiao, who was having a meal, heard my voice, he slammed his chopsticks on the ground. "Dad, I said last night that from now on, we should draw a clear line from the neighbors." Yen Zhao's father looked at him helplessly, and his mother quickly got up and pulled me in. "Don't listen to his nonsense. He just came back and is stimulated." "Who's stimulated?" Yen Xiao slapped the table and stood up. He walked 2 steps to me. In the previous life, he grew to about 185 centimeters, very tall, but this time, probably due to malnutrition, I could be as tall as him wearing high-heeled shoes. "And Iji, stop acting in our house, get out now." Yen Zhao's parents were about to stop him, and the fake rich daughter in the previous life, that is, Xiaoen in this life, stopped them first. "Uncle, Auntie, let's listen to what Yen Xiao has to say." "And Iji, I really don't know where I offended you. Do you know what kind of life I've been living these years?" "Those beasts." Probably thinking of something sad. Yen Zhao's lips began to tremble halfway through his words. "But now I'm back. This is my home, not your home with that pretty boy. I'm the biological son of the Yen family and the heir to the Yen family's business. None of you are allowed to covet my things." I looked at Yen Zhao's parents and then, like coaxing a child, nodded along with his words. Okay, you're right, Yan Qing, it's getting late, let's set off first." "Where are you going?" Yan Xiao blocked our way. I deliberately looked at Yan Qing with admiration. "To the launch event of the project that Yan Qing and I participated in together. By the way, didn't you also like to accompany Uncle and Auntie to these activities before? Do you want to go with us this time?" Yan Zhao's face instantly turned red with anger. "Oh, right, I forgot. Even with the best platform, after being away for 10 years, it's very difficult to come back." I smiled and waved to Yan Zhao's parents. "Uncle, Auntie, we're leaving." 14. After going out, Xiaoen actually followed me. Yan Qing went to wait for me in the car first, while Xiaoen began to test me. "I heard that you and Yan Xiao were childhood sweethearts. Were you there when he was abducted back then? Why did you manage to escape successfully?" Looking at her pretended innocent appearance, I covered my nose and took a half-step back. "It stinks. Did you not wash yourself clean when you took a bath last night? There's a fishy smell. You don't have some dirty disease, do you?" These were the words she said to me when we first met in the previous life. We stared at each other, and the hatred that we no longer concealed burst out from the bottom of our eyes. "Sure enough, you, this bitch, were also reborn." I chuckled twice. "This is what you call the mercy of heaven. He specifically let me come back to deal with you 2 murderers." Xiaoen looked at me with a cold smile on her lips. "So what if you were reborn? You're still going to be my loser. In this life, I'll crush you with a car and then throw you into the gutter to feed the stinking fish and shrimp. At that time, your parents will still regard me as their daughter." I looked at her sideways and suddenly laughed. Did she think I had done nothing in these 10 years? Now, it's probably not that I can't do without them, but that they can't do without me. "What are you laughing at?" I scanned her up and down and said lightly, "I just think that without my family's money spent on you, you really look very ordinary. Guess what Yen Xiao would do to you if he knew that the human traffickers were your parents." Her pupils suddenly shrank in fright, and I left with my head held high and got into the Mercedes-Benz not far away. Yan Qing handed me a bottle of water. "You seem to really hate those 2. "Yes, I didn't hide it. If you still want to stay here, you have to be as hostile to them as I am." After waiting for so many years, wasn't this what I was waiting for? Yan Qing looked ahead and started the car. saying softly, "Okay, 15, there wasn't actually much to do at the launch event. I used this as an excuse just to deliberately provoke them." After we were almost done with our work, Yan Qing and I found a coffee shop and sat down. Just as we were sitting there, I saw a car from the Yan family drive by on the roadside. Could that be Yan Xiao? Follow and see. The car stopped at the entrance of the hospital. It was indeed Yan Xiao, and he didn't bring Xiaoen with him. He was acting very secretively, and as soon as he entered the door, he went straight to the proctology department. Yan Qing was puzzled. What is he doing here? I smiled meaningfully. It couldn't be that he came to the hospital alone to see a hemorrhoid problem, right? It seemed that Yan Xiao had experienced a lot these years. Yan Xiao stayed in the proctology department for a whole day. Before leaving, he kept shouting that he had something to do and couldn't be hospitalized. After he left, I asked Yan Qing to use his face, which was similar to Yan Zhao's, to deceive the doctor. What's going on? Yan Qing's expression was a bit complicated. Speak, what on earth is going on? Yan Qing took out a photo and showed it to me. It was an X-ray film that Yan Xiao had just taken. There was actually a round light bulb and a beer bottle in his abdominal cavity. Even though I was mentally prepared, I was still stunned. Goodness, his experience was much richer than mine in the previous life. 16. A few days later was Yan Qing's 18th birthday. Although the atmosphere in the Yan family was a bit awkward these days, Yan Zhao's parents were still carefully preparing his coming-of-age ceremony. Yan Xiao had been causing trouble. When I came home, you didn't even hold a banquet to welcome me. Now, for just an adopted son's 18th birthday, you're making such an exaggerated coming-of-age ceremony for him. Mom and Dad, are you getting senile? I'm your biological son. I stood aside, looking innocent, and said, but brother Yan Qing has not only won various competitions but also participated in company projects early, bringing a lot of honor to the family. And this birthday party is not just for him, many people will come. Isn't an adult's party just a business field? Yan Zhao's parents looked at me and Yan Qing approvingly. But when their eyes fell on Yan Xiao, they sighed imperceptibly again. Your dad and I have told you many times, control your hostility a little. We will hold a banquet for you soon and arrange for you to go abroad to study and further your education. Your girlfriend can also. Before she could finish speaking, Yan Xiao stood up again with a whoosh. What do you mean? You want to send me away and then hand over the company to this pretty boy? I'm telling you, it's impossible. The family's property must be mine, otherwise, even if I destroy it, I won't let you give it to an outsider. If I can't live well, no one else should either. When I was suffering outside, did anyone think about me? No, you're here raising someone else's son and thinking you're enjoying family happiness. How stupid, what a stupid thing to do. Hearing this, Yan Zhao's father finally couldn't bear it anymore. He threw the teacup in his hand to the ground. If you keep spouting such nonsense, get out of here and go back where you came from. Yan Xiao was so angry that his whole body was shaking. Finally, Xiaoen pulled him out. After comforting Yan Zhao's father, I went home. Just then, I happened to see those two arguing on the road, with such a good opportunity. How could I not go over and annoy them? Are you angry already, Yan Xiao? I'm not saying this to be mean, but you're really becoming more and more narrow-minded. Yan Xiao still wanted to attack me, while Xiaoen stood aside and watched coldly. I stood still and didn't dodge, only saying, if you hit me, the shares of the Yan family will all belong to Yan Qing. What do you mean? I looked at them with a smile. You don't know this, but Yan Qing is really outstanding. He has also been in this family for 10 years. Uncle and auntie have already signed a document to give him 10% of the shares, which will take effect on his 18th birthday. That was the first time I saw someone actually so angry that their eyes seemed to be on fire. After the 18-year-old coming-of-age ceremony, Yan Qing will be a proper shareholder. Yan Xiao gritted his teeth. This is simply outrageous. 17. Many people came to the coming-of-age ceremony. As the protagonist of the day, Yan Qing was shining brightly. He chatted with the guests along with Yan Zhao's parents. After 10 years of edification, he was already very proficient in such occasions. Just as he was cutting the cake, Yan Xiao suddenly opened a bottle of champagne and sprayed it at Yan Qing on the stage. The champagne splashed equally on everyone, causing exclamations at the scene. Yan Qing's carefully groomed hair got wet and stuck to his forehead, and a few drops of champagne flowed down his cheeks. Yan Zhao's parents were also startled, but it was too late to stop it. Why are you celebrating this outsider's birthday? Why are you introducing him to so many people? Yan Xiao shouted from behind, still not satisfied. He went up on stage and tore off the microphone. Open your eyes and see clearly. I'm the proper heir of this family. That fake, I'll kill him sooner or later. Before he could continue going crazy, Yan Zhao's father rushed up directly and slapped him. Shut up, I'm sorry, everyone. Yan Zhao has a problem with his mind, he's crazy. Ah, Yan Zhao, how dare you hit your father? The father and son started fighting in public, scaring the guests away. I helped Yan Qing wipe the wine stains on his face. This is the best birthday present I gave you. In the future, Yan Qing would no longer have any threats. The corners of Yan Qing's lips curled up, just as he was about to answer me. He frowned again. He quickly pulled me behind him and then kicked out. Only then did I know that Shaoan was rushing towards me with a knife. She was kicked to the ground and still shouted unconvinced. Again. Yan Qing frowned. Is she crazy? Of course I knew what again meant. Unfortunately, she would never have another chance in this life. 18. Yan Zhao's father and Yan Xiao completely broke up. They severed their father-son relationship. And Yan Xiao was kicked out of the house. At the same time, I found a reporter to expose Yan Zhao's X-ray film. Instantly, the topic about Yan Xiao became extremely popular the whole network. No, I'm just curious how this guy can still fight with foreign objects in his body. But guy, no, I just slipped in the bath and accidentally sat on them. He might really be crazy. The overwhelming negative comments could quickly drown a person. A few days later, I received a text message from Yan Xiao. The old place, dare you come? I thought for a long time before I remembered where the old place he mentioned was. That night, I went to the appointment gladly, but I was well prepared when that car rushed towards me again. Before it even reached me, 2 tires burst and it crashed into the big tree next to it. I looked coldly at them, who were all injured. Do you think I would fall in the same place twice? There was a cut on Yan Zhao's head, and blood covered his face. He glared at me viciously. Why on earth are you treating me like this? I smiled. I'm just treating you the way you treated me. Vaguely, I smelled the smell of gasoline. Looking at the gasoline gradually flowing on the ground, I got to the point. You've been staying in a place called Huangdegutan all these years and couldn't run away, right? A trace of surprise flashed in Yan Zhao's eyes. How do you know? I curled my lips. I also know that the girlfriend next to you, her parents are human traffickers. Yan Xiao didn't believe it. I smiled and threw over a video. It was Shaoan affectionately calling the human traffickers mom and dad and giving them a lot of ideas to abuse Yan Xiao. As for how I got this video, of course, after I was reborn, I sent someone to secretly install a hidden camera in the human trafficker's house early. Shaoan also saw the content of the video and screamed, shaking her head, no. But Yan Xiao was furious. I'll kill you, you bitch. I turned around and walked away quickly. Let the fire wash over these 2 scumbags. 19. After learning of Yan Zhao's death, Yan Zhao's parents were not as sad as expected. Instead, they seemed to be relieved. However, Yan Zhao's father was also beaten badly, coupled with the psychological blow. He seemed to have aged 10 years. Yan Qing also smoothly became the only heir. My parents were watching TV at home and sighing about the series of things that happened in the Yan family. Is there some saying in their family, so many things have happened recently, to be honest, they should find someone to get rid of the bad luck. My stomach suddenly hurts a lot. You go first, I'll come to find you later. You. When I met my parents' eyes, I took out 2 plane tickets and then said slowly, the elders of the neighbor's family have all stepped down. You two should also go abroad to enjoy your old age. Do you think you've grown too big for your britches? I stood up with a smile and then shook the small medicine bottle in my hand. Dad, your heart hasn't been feeling well recently. The special medicine is all from me. In fact, there was no special medicine, it was just vitamins. He thought it was effective only because on the day he took the medicine, I didn't drug him. My dad was immediately caught by the throat. He slumped back on the sofa. Okay. The child has grown up and started to plot to seize power. I went straight upstairs. In the previous life, they alienated me after listening to the instigation of the fake rich daughter. Letting them go abroad to retire was already my kindness. The next morning, when I went out to the company, I happened to meet Yan Qing, who was about to leave. At the door, he raised his chin at me. Let's go. I curled my lips and got into his car. Let's go. Our battlefield has just begun. Story 2. The day my brother died, his dropout notice also arrived at our home. My mother suffered a sudden heart attack, and my father was involved in a car accident on his way back. Meanwhile, Wen Ru, my brother's infatuated admirer, was carelessly boasting in a bar about a drama where two men fought over her. Carrying a fruit knife, I rushed into the bar, and the moment I stabbed at Wenru. Time reversed, I returned to my second year of high school, back when my brother was still the top student and the cool, handsome guy everyone admired. Nothing had yet happened, it was just a moment of dizziness. The chaotic noise of the bar turned into the sound of the school bell. My body still held the posture of wielding a knife, but what I had in my hand was a black pen, which was now poking into another student's uniform. It was Zhou Ji, the acknowledged bully of the school and one of Wenru's many admirers. On the day of the incident, for Wenru, he and a group of people cornered my brother in an alley and beat him. Eventually, my brother died from stab wounds inflicted by one of the thugs. The forensic report stated he was stabbed through the chest. Zhou Ji simply said afterward, "I didn't know he would bring a knife," and as the son of a high-ranking official, he managed to clear his name completely. He glanced down at the pen cap sticking into his uniform and then back at me, his expression unreadable. Just coldly, he asked, "What's the matter?" The images of my brother's body, my mother's cries, and my father, whom I never got to see one last time, pounded at my temples. I stared at him fiercely, struggling to keep my trembling hands under control to avoid lunging forward and strangling him. Zhou Ji's brows furrowed. He was about to say something more when the teacher's reprimand quieted everyone down. "What's the commotion at the back? Class is starting." As if awakening from a dream, I looked around and instantly saw, standing next to the teacher on the podium, a girl. "Zhou Ji, Jiang Yan, return to your seats. Let me introduce to everyone, the new student who transferred to our class this semester, Wenru." I walked back to my seat like a zombie, noticing the many gazes fixed on Wenru. She was pale, slim, and her features were exquisitely beautiful. The sunlight streaming onto the podium elongated her elegant figure. With a smile on her lips and a sly glint in her eyes, she completed her introduction and was directed by the teacher to the empty seat next to me. It wasn't until she methodically performed the actions I remembered from my memories, walking towards me under everyone's gaze and cheerfully saying hello, that I truly believed I had traveled back in time. Back to the start of my second year in high school, the time when Wenru transferred to our school, marking the beginning of all misfortunes. In the days to come, she would be revered as the school beauty for her enviable looks and her gentle demeanor, entangling herself with my brother and winning a place in his heart. From being the unattainable dream of many boys, she became the deep mark on my brother, Jianheng, and my brother, who lay in a pool of blood, became her proudest trophy, the one who fell from grace for her, descended from the pedestal for her, and ultimately died for her. Compared to my initial admiration and joy when I first met her, this time, I merely glanced at her, holding my head up, looking into her eyes. I gave a half-smile. Please guide me well. Indeed, it was time to guide her properly. In the classroom, Wenru was fiddling with her bangs using a palm-sized mirror, while I stared out the window, lost in thought. I was originally the type of student who immersed myself in my studies, oblivious to everything else. Even though Jianheng's grades were excellent, I always left him behind. Returning to my second year, I only needed a glance to reinforce what the teacher was explaining. For that reason, when I first learned that Jianheng had started dating, I was merely curious and gossiped a bit without making a big deal out of it. After all, it was the typical pairing of the most attractive boy and girl at school, which was hardly controversial. Even when he picked up smoking and drinking from Wenru and his grades began to decline, I inwardly scoffed at the idea of love turning someone's brain to mush, thinking it would not end well. Prophetically, Jianheng died. On our 18th birthday, my mother mentioned that he was born just a minute before I was. That day, he made his last phone call to me. He said he had waited in line for an hour to buy my favorite Kolomi series cupcake. By the time I arrived at the scene, Jianheng's body had already been taken away. In that alley, apart from the toppled cupcake, there was also a bunch of Star of Bethlehem flowers, trampled and dirty. Those were my favorite flowers. In this world, countless people are dizzy with love, some confused, some mad, but it shouldn't lead to death, and it definitely should not have been my brother. Fate has given me a chance to start over, to change the fragmented fate of my family. I want to pull my brother Jianheng back from the abyss, back to his vibrant and flourishing 18-year-old self. When the class bell rang, people crowded around Wenru and me at our desk, all there to curry favor with her. I was squeezed between Wenru and her adoring fans. Zhou Ji, in particular, leaned over my desk, reached across me to tap on Wenru's desk, and said in what he thought was a cool, casual manner, "Shall we have lunch together?" I couldn't help but roll my eyes at his slickness, silently cursing idiot in my heart. The next second, Zhou Ji's cold gaze landed on my face. I didn't bother to ponder what he thought after seeing my eye roll, nor did I care if I had offended him. I had more important things to do. I stood up, forcefully made my way through the crowd, and headed towards the neighboring class where Jianheng was, standing at the doorway of class 1. I constantly shifted my gaze searching for Jianheng. Suddenly, a familiar, cool voice came from behind me, looking for me. Turning around, I saw Jianheng holding a water bottle, lazily raising an eyebrow. I had never looked at him so intently before. This Jianheng was alive, his short-sleeved school uniform wrapped tightly around his growing frame, the top 2 buttons neatly fastened, leading up to his prominent Adam's apple and sharp jawline. His silhouette cast by the sunlight completely enveloping me. Seeing that I remained silent, he frowned and waved his hand in front of my face. "What's wrong?" My eyes watered, and I quickly rubbed them before looking up again, tears streaming down my face. "Brother." I suppressed the urge to hug him, opened my mouth, but my throat was so tight I couldn't speak. Jianheng, shocked, hesitated for a moment before wiping my tears away with his cool fingertips. He then changed to a gentle, serious tone. "Tell me, what happened?" I grinned, an uglier expression than crying, and managed to choke out, "It's nothing, let's go home early tonight, I miss Mom and Dad." Jianheng laughed. "What are you, in kindergarten? You still haven't grown up." Then, he put one arm around me comfortingly. "Alright, we'll leave right after school." After making sure there was nothing unusual with Jianheng, I felt a huge relief and briefly spoke with him before turning to head back to class. However, as I turned around, Wenru came up with a smile. "Deskmate, I was actually hoping you could accompany me to the office." She hung on to my arm affectionately, winking at Jianheng behind me. "Is this your boyfriend? He's so handsome. Can you bring me along to play next time?" I glanced back at Jianheng. He frowned and looked at me with a puzzled expression, clearly shocked by the term boyfriend. I gave him a smile, turned my head, and said expressionlessly to Wenru, "No, you can't. My brother doesn't like girls who are too overpowering." As soon as I finished speaking, Wenru's expression turned as if she was constipated. She bowed her head almost imperceptibly and sniffed herself to check for any odd smells. After confirming that there was no strange odor on her, she curled her lips. Her expression cooled, but her words still showed a hint of weakness. "Jian Yin, today is my first day at this school, and I hope we can get along well. If I have offended you in any way, please tell me directly instead of attacking me for no reason." Her expression was sincere, her words polite, and her demeanor neither servile nor overbearing, like a delicate white lotus shivering in the cold wind but still standing firm. I mimicked her demeanor with a sincere face and said, "Ah, what did I attack you for? You really do have a strong scent." I even winked at Jianheng. "Brother, didn't you smell it?" Caught off guard, Jianheng glanced at me helplessly and played along. It does seem a bit, right? It's exactly like the scent of the aged green tea we have in the corner of our home." I looked at her with a grin. Wenru's face turned extremely ugly, tears even welled up in her eyes, and the light in her eyes when she looked at Jianheng faded. Her cheeks flushed, she turned around and rushed back into the classroom. Watching her retreating figure, I snorted coldly, unexpectedly receiving a light knock on the head from Jianheng. He looked at me with a slightly critical expression, asking, "Why are you being so harsh with the new girl?" I took his words as instinctively protecting Wenru. Flashbacks of previous incidents triggered a wave of disgust in my mind, and my tone grew harsher. "What's the matter?" Feeling pity for her. "Then why did you just play along with me? If you feel sorry, go comfort her." Jianheng's face showed surprise and confusion once again. After a moment, his expression darkened, and his voice lowered. "You're acting strange today. That girl's perfume was indeed a bit pungent. I was just stating the truth. If you feel wronged, tell me, but if you keep lashing out for no reason, then suit yourself." After speaking, Jianheng turned to head back to class, adjusting my breathing. Just before the bell rang, I called out to his retreating figure, "I just don't like her, and if you end up liking her, then you are not my brother anymore." I returned to the classroom, dispirited. Since I can remember, Jianheng and I rarely had such confrontational conversations. I was also aware that attacking Wenru relentlessly in front of Jianheng was not the best strategy, especially since I was the only one who could see the whole picture. Originally, it was I who had pushed Wenru towards Jianheng. When she first asked if she could join us in the future, I didn't hesitate to welcome her. From then on, She joined us for school, lunch, and day after day. The way Wenru looked at my brother grew stickier. She even started handling love letters from other girls for him, reading them to him in a sugary voice, watching his ears turn red, and occasionally saying something subtly flirtatious. Their outings on weekends became more frequent, and my brother's academic ranking started to slip, while I devoted myself entirely to my studies, thinking, let them be, as long as I performed well, the rewards from my parents would be greater. Back then, how could I have imagined this outcome? The bell for class rang. It was time for physical education, and the classroom was slowly emptying. I was about to grab a test paper and head to the sports field when I noticed someone sitting at my desk. Zhou was idly flipping through my test paper, oblivious to my approach until I was right in front of him, and still, he didn't even lift his head. I reached out, pulled the test paper from his hands, and uttered coldly, "Stand up." Only then did Zhou look up at me, his eyes filled with mockery. The top student, so aloof. I ignored him and repeated, "Stand up." Zhou, now even less inclined to get up, leaned back, pressing against my backpack and laughed heartily. "I heard you're quite capable," even made the new student cry. "Is this how you want to get my attention?" I watched him silently for 2 seconds and then smiled. Yes, I actually enjoy seeing her cry. And even more when her sycophants start snapping at others in haste. Is there a kind of thrill in watching lowly creatures? Zhou's expression suddenly turned cold as frost covered his face. He stood up abruptly, gripping my chin tightly, his hand exerting force. He stared at me, sizing me up with a strange look, and then, with a complex smile, he said, "Jian Nian, it seems we weren't close enough before. I think, from now on, we should really get to know each other better." The next second, his hand was sliced by the utility knife I had grabbed from the table, causing him to release his grip in pain. I pushed him hard, making him fall back onto the chair, and looked down at him. "Sorry, I don't deal with idiots." Then, I picked up the test paper, took a pen from my pocket, and walked away. During the physical education class, I could feel Zhou's sincerity in wanting to get to know me anew. Despite his injured hand, he was still imposing on the basketball court. Ignoring his occasional cold glares, I focused solely on figuring out the solution to the last and most challenging problem on the test paper. However, the basketballs frequently flying my way forced me to pay attention to the court. The last time, after scanning my surroundings, I subtly adjusted my position under the guise of tying my shoelaces. Zhou's basketball flew towards me in a perfect parabolic trajectory, which I narrowly dodged by tilting my head. The next moment, a dull thud of the basketball hitting flesh, followed by a piercing scream, came from behind me. Several small groups of girls rushed to the source behind me, while the boys halted their running to look in my direction. The source of the scream, Wenru, was now holding her face, sobbing quietly. Almost the entire class gathered around, busy comforting the injured delicate flower. Only Zhou stood a few steps away from the crowd, silently watching me, seeing that I was also looking at him. He moved his lips, clearly forming the words, "Intentional." The girls had already started to vehemently take Wenru's side. Which idiot threw the basketball? To fly this far is insane, should try for the NBA with that skill. It was definitely Zhou. I saw him deliberately throw the basketball this way. Meanwhile, the boys, still somewhat defensive of their big brother, deliberately changed the subject. "Let's not talk about that now, let's get Wenru to the nurse's office. It was all just an accident." Zhou, arms crossed over his chest and clearly looking upset, glanced at me with an ambiguous expression, then stepped forward to Wenru and said in a somewhat stiff voice, "I'll take you to the nurse's office." With her eyelashes still red from crying, Wenru gave a pitiful smile, looking very distressed. "No need, Zhou. I believe it wasn't intentional. It doesn't hurt that much. Let's not blame him. Was that really not intentional? Can't you even say sorry?" "Exactly, just a moment ago he was sweet-talking someone else, and now he's putting on airs." The phrase "it wasn't intentional" ignited a flurry of gossip among the girls, each remark hitting Zhou like a stab in the spine. Finally, a furious shut up from Zhou silenced everyone in the room. Wenru, startled, widened her eyes, not understanding his reaction. Zhou, cold as ice, simply ignored Wenru, bent down to pick up the basketball from the ground, and turned back to the court, followed by most of the boys. Seeing Wenru's disappointed expression and the fleeting shadow in her eyes, I couldn't help but sneer internally. She thought she was being clever by positioning herself as humble hoping to evoke Zhou Ji's guilt and craft a perfect image of an innocent damsel to win favor. Little did she know, with Zhou Ji's personality, arrogant and dismissive, he would only apologize if he genuinely wanted to. Being morally coerced into apologizing was not something he would willingly do. His kindness towards women was merely an instinctive behavior of a male. If pushed into a corner, he would only grow tired and rebellious, just a typical proud and stubborn man. When Ru, failing to receive the apology and affection from Zhou Ji, decided not to pretend anymore, she swiftly stood up, appearing unbothered, and stared thoughtfully in Zhou Ji's direction, pondering something. After school, as I was packing my bag, Jianheng was already waiting at the door of our class. He leaned casually at the door, attracting attention from many. Despite his cool demeanor, Jianheng didn't possess a domineering aura. He relaxed his brows, smiled softly, and waved at me to come over. I slung my backpack over one shoulder and took one last glance at Wenru's empty seat before heading out. Outside, Jianheng seemed in no rush to leave, leaning against the door and looking at me with feigned indifference. "What's up, aren't we leaving?" I urged. "I'm waiting for my sister." "Who are you?" he replied casually, still dwelling on our conversation from the morning. Realizing this, I nodded, turned, and said, "Then I'll go find my brother, bye." That finally made Jianheng drop his act and follow me, taking my backpack from my shoulder to carry it himself. Then he slung his arm roughly around my neck, pulling me close into a tight embrace. His voice carried a hint of anger. "So you're having issues with others, and you don't need your brother anymore. I don't even know that girl, and you're making up stories about me liking her." My heart sank slightly, taken aback. I had always feared that Jianheng in this timeline would repeat past mistakes, but I had overlooked his inherently aloof nature. Hesitantly, I asked, "So, what did you think of her when you saw her?" He seemed even more exasperated but answered obligingly, "Just an ordinary girl." His expression was sincere, showing no deceit. Wenru was far from ordinary, but Jianheng was never one to judge by appearances, having been approached by many women, including beauties, throughout his life. His calling someone ordinary meant that, for now, Wenru had made no significant impression on him. Relieved by his response, I relaxed completely, linking his arm. We hopped down the stairs just like we used to when we were kids, playful and carefree. Jianheng's anger subsided as we moved together, a moment reminiscent of simpler times. He teased me for being childish with a smile. However, as I was hopping around, I accidentally bumped into someone. Zhou Ji, holding a basketball in one hand and sweating slightly, stood in front of me, apparently just after playing a game. He looked expressionlessly at Jianheng, then glanced at my hand intertwined with Jianheng's arm and said with a smirk, "Playing house, are you?" I instinctively tried to step in front of Jianheng, but he shielded me behind him instead. Jianheng smiled lightly and calmly said to him, "Sorry, classmate." He then tried to walk past Zhou Ji with me, but Zhou Ji reached out to block me, his tone icy. "Aren't you going to apologize?" On the back of his hand was a glaring wound, the very one I had inflicted that morning. Jianheng frowned, about to say something, but I spoke first with a sweet smile. "I'm sorry, brother Zhou Ji." Zhou Ji was taken aback, seemingly not expecting me to be so docile. A hint of mockery flashed in my eyes as I gently caressed his wound with my hand, then dug my nails deep into his flesh. The barely healed wound started bleeding again under my pinch. Zhou Ji's face twisted in pain, trying to shake off my hand, but I gripped even tighter. "Hurts, doesn't it? It's just a fraction of what my brother endured." "Damn." As Zhou Ji was about to throw the basketball in his arms and raise his other hand, I let go, my eyes slightly downcast. I met his gaze, my eyes venomous, and whispered, "Brother Zhou Ji, be more careful where you walk in the future, lest you bump into me again." Perhaps because I made no effort to conceal my hostility, more than anger, Zhou Ji's eyes showed surprise and confusion. He couldn't understand why someone who had always been quiet, buried in her studies and hardly ever spoken in 2 years, harbored such intense resentment against him. I stopped looking at him and let Jianheng pull me away. Those actions were subtle, and Jianheng didn't notice anything unusual, only turned his head slightly in dissatisfaction. "Why do you call everyone brother?" Humming a tune, I felt cheerful and did not respond. Outside the school, near a nearby alley, I could distinctly hear some unusual noises emanating from it, cries, curses, and the clear sound of slaps. I frowned, sensing something was wrong. Jianheng and I exchanged glances, and he told me to stay put while he walked into the alley alone. How could I possibly obey? I followed him. The alley was long and narrow, its walls connected to many old, dilapidated standalone residential buildings. Following the noises, the sounds of laughter and crying grew louder. Finally, in the yard of an abandoned two-story building, I saw Wenru squatting on the ground, crying, surrounded by several rowdy girls. Wenru's hair was disheveled, her face tear-streaked. The leader of the girls poured a can of soda over her head, the beverage dripping continuously through her hair. Her school uniform, shortened deliberately, soaked and clinging tightly to her body, revealing her shapely figure. The girls squatted in front of her, gently slapping her face and laughing loudly. "What are you doing?" Jianheng couldn't just stand by. He picked up a short steel pipe covered in cement from the ground and said calmly, "I've already called the police, they'll be here any minute." Wenru, like a drowning person clutching at a straw, staggered into Jianheng's arms and clung tightly to his waist, her face rubbing against his chest as she cried, like a frightened little rabbit. The girls, initially very arrogant, had their bluster significantly dampened. They looked anxious, repeatedly peering towards the corner of the alley, but it seems necessary under the circumstances. It seemed that she was genuinely afraid that the police would come. At last, the leader, a tough-looking older woman, pointed at Wenru and said gruffly, "You're lucky this time, don't let me catch you again." After saying that, she hurriedly left with her group of followers. I stood behind Jianheng, watching this act of bullying with an expressionless face. As I quietly watched the leader, when she brushed past me, I gave her a grin and whispered, "Long time no see." She glanced at me, puzzled, and hurried off without saying much. Of course, I couldn't forget her. She was the girl who had laughed the loudest at the bar next to Wenru. Listening to Wenru boast about her Queen of the Sea experiences, Jianheng looked somewhat stiff as he comforted Wenru in his arms, gently patting her back and saying softly, "It's okay, don't be afraid, they're gone now." Wenru then looked up, her face still delicate despite being stained with tears, showing no signs of the red slap marks or even any swelling. She looked pitifully at Jianheng and asked, "Can you take me to the hospital?" Jianheng hesitated, then turned to look at me. I smiled broadly. "Why go to a hospital? Just come to our place, it's nearby, we can check you over there." Jianheng was clearly surprised by my offer to take Wenru home out of goodwill, but he didn't say much, just as he didn't when he had rushed in like a hero earlier. Protecting the vulnerable is a natural duty for him, my brother. He could fulfill my minor requests, but interfering with his rescues would only lead him to be increasingly disappointed in me, as it turned out. Even if I kept my distance from Wenru in this timeline, she would still go to great lengths to design a chance meeting to get close to Jianheng. Along the way, Wenru clung to Jianheng as if boneless, either tripping over stones or taking dramatic falls on flat concrete. She occasionally let out sharp cries of pain, as if she was genuinely unable to walk. Finally, I stopped and said to her, "You seem very uncomfortable walking. How about I carry you?" I asked seriously. With no hint of impatience, Wenru looked awkwardly at Jianheng, expecting him to have offered, "Not me." Before she could respond, I had already turned around and bent down to crouch in front of her. Before I could fully squat down, Jianheng grabbed the back of my school uniform and pulled me between him and Wenru, then pointed to a nearby medical supply store and said nonchalantly, "If you can't walk properly, we could buy a wheelchair there." Wenru was even more embarrassed and shook her head repeatedly, insisting she could walk fine. I was slightly surprised. I certainly didn't really want to carry Wenru. My earlier offer was just to make her lower her guard. After the confrontation earlier, her impression of me probably wasn't too good, but why would Jianheng say something so harsh to a girl who had just been bullied? Before I could think further, I realized we had slowly arrived at the entrance of my residential building. I stopped, turned to Jianheng, and said, "Bro, you go ahead with her. I'm going to the convenience store to pick up some things." Jianheng asked, "What are you buying?" I casually replied, "We seem to be out of band-aids and alcohol at home." Without suspicion, Jianheng nodded and walked away with Wenru. I watched as their figures disappeared around the corner, then turned and entered a large digital mall. I headed straight for a well-stocked shop and got straight to the point. "I need to buy a smart voice recorder, one with good battery life and remote control via mobile phone." The voice recorder was more expensive than I expected, but it seemed necessary under the circumstances. The device looks more like a mini, slim version of a smartphone. After the transaction was successful, I hurried to the convenience store to buy some alcohol and band-aids. Having done all that, I stood at my front door and rang the doorbell. There are surveillance cameras in the classroom, and it's easy to attract attention outside of school. if I wanted to safely and securely place the recording pen in Wenru's backpack, it had to be done at my home. Only Wenru was in the living room. After Jianheng placed a medical kit and a glass of water on the coffee table, he went into his room. Wenru seemed a bit disappointed, but when she saw me return, she quickly rearranged her expression. I sat down next to her, smiling warmly. I said some harsh things to you this morning. I'm sorry. Hearing this, she touched her hair near her ears and smiled tolerantly. It's okay, I understand how you feel. It's normal to be afraid of someone taking your brother away. I often encounter this. I'm just friends with some boys, but their girlfriends really dislike me. I'm used to it now. As I reached to open the medical kit, a wave of nausea surged in my stomach, and I subtly changed the subject. But why did you get involved with those people just now? Wenru looked somewhat helpless. They were my classmates at my previous school. The guy they liked confessed to me, and they were jealous, I guess. I transferred schools because I couldn't stand the bullying, but they still haven't let go of me. As she spoke, her gaze shifted to my face. What I really envy is someone like you, a simple and unadorned good student who doesn't attract much attention from the opposite sex and can focus on studying, unlike me. I'm exhausted dealing with unwanted suitors every day. Oh. I don't know why, even though there are so many girls at school, they still fancy me. I nodded and smiled, patting her leg without engaging further in the conversation. You seemed uncomfortable walking just now. Let's check if there's any injury on your leg first. After saying that, I gestured for her to stretch her leg out on the sofa. Wenru was clearly reluctant. Actually, I'm not really hurt. No need to check. By the way, where's your brother? Isn't he coming out? I raised an eyebrow. He's in his room. Should I call him for you? Wenru smiled. No need to trouble you. I'll go myself. I'd like to see what a boy's room looks like. Inside, I coldly chuckled, but nodded outwardly. Wenru tidied her hair to maintain a refined look and headed towards Jianheng's room. As her figure disappeared at the doorway of Jianheng's room, I quickly searched her backpack. The backpack wasn't empty, but there were no textbooks or exercise books, not even the homework assigned today. There were just a few romance magazines, a makeup bag, and some other miscellaneous items unrelated to studies. I placed the recording pen in a hidden compartment she wouldn't notice. Wenru came out much faster than I expected. She was only inside for 2 minutes and came out looking very pleased. Jianheng followed behind her, looking weary. Classmate, if there's nothing seriously wrong with you, you should head home early. Jianheng's tone was polite but distant. Wenru sweetly said, I was fine just now, but now I feel a bit uncomfortable. She looked at Jianheng bashfully. Suddenly, my heart is racing. My throat is tight, and I'm breathing rapidly. Jianheng looked at me somewhat speechlessly, and I smiled slightly, walking into the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. Rapid breathing, you might suffocate. You know, I've read a bit about cricothyrotomy. How about I sterilize and try making an incision in your throat? My kitchen knife is quite clean. Wenru's expression froze, clearly not expecting this turn of events, and quickly waved her hand saying it wasn't necessary. Before leaving, she cautiously looked at Jianheng. Thank you for saving me today. Can I walk to and from school with you guys from now on? I'm afraid of running into those people again today. Jianheng didn't respond. He seemed hesitant, and Wenru's words hit him right where it hurt. If he refused and something really happened to Wenru on the road, he would likely blame himself for the rest of his life. Thus, I didn't give him the chance to decide. Looking into Wenru's eyes, I spoke with a cold and firm tone, word by word. No, you can't. The air seemed to freeze for a moment, and a shadow of resentment briefly crossed Wenru's face. She bit her lip, remained silent for a while, and finally offered a sorrowful smile. At last, she turned to Jianheng, her voice almost pleading. Then, could you take me home? My house isn't far from here. Before Jianheng could respond, I quickly took her by the hand with a smile. I'll take you home. 9. Wenru's home was indeed nearby, just across the street. We hadn't walked far when I noticed her spirits were low. A hint of mockery flashed in my eyes. I patted her shoulder. I'll head back first then. She ignored me, but suddenly called out my name, Jian Yin. I stopped and looked at her. Her expression was no longer frail and innocent. With a cold gaze and a harsh tone, she said, It's pitiful how you scheme to keep me away from your brother. Men are all the same. They like beautiful and charming things. And you can't guard against this type of allure. I advise you not to pine for someone you shouldn't. After all, he's your own brother. Even though I was prepared, I couldn't help but laugh in astonishment. What, has she lost her mind? Wenru didn't respond further, leaving behind a meaningful look before turning and walking away. I strolled home alone leisurely, glancing up casually. I saw several girls across the street. They were in a group, their distinct hair colors and outfits making them quite conspicuous, the same girls who had surrounded Wenru earlier, and they were clearly heading toward Wenru's home. I quickened my pace, hurried home, entered my room, and took out my cell phone to activate the voice recorder. First, there was a faint rustling of static followed by the distinct clinking of glass. How did it go, Ru? Our act just now wasn't bad, right? This person sounded quite smug. Wenru snorted, followed by the sound of a glass being slammed down on the table. What good does it do to act well? Jianheng didn't agree to any of my requests, and Jiang Yin, that wretched woman, is so paranoid about me stealing her brother, guarding him like crazy. Oh wow, it's rare for the Empress to encounter such a tough nut to crack. It's not bad to give you a bit of a challenge, otherwise, what's the fun if men flock to you just by a flick of your hand? But Wenru's tone was not as relaxed as the others. Don't talk without experiencing it yourself. After all the effort to stage a play, I still can't even get close to Jianheng. It's just bad luck. And that Zhou Ji, I don't know what got into him today, suddenly snapping at me without any of the loyalty you'd expect from a backup. The others comforted her. Don't rush it, Ru, it's only your first day of school. The most eligible bachelor at Z Middle School is worth the hassle. And succeeding in the end will feel even more rewarding. If all else fails, just resort to some unconventional means. I know the owner of Blossom Bar sells certain substances. Relax, Ru, we'll find a chance to teach that nasty girl a lesson. What's her name? Jiang Yin, right. After a while, I pressed the pause button. 10. The first Thursday and Friday of the school term were traditionally reserved for exams. Having already completed my senior year, I was well versed in junior year knowledge and various standard question types. Even without specifically reviewing, I could easily handle the exam. Before the morning reading session, a girl approached me with a thin notebook of mistakes, smiling politely as she asked, Jiang Yin, could you help explain these questions to me? I looked up and saw it was Xian Qiu, who sat towards the back of the class, had average grades, and liked to secretly read novels on her phone during less important classes. I nodded and agreed happily, then added one more question. Did you bring your cell phone today? During the math test, while everyone else was still furiously writing, I had already finished and was staring idly at the clock on the wall. Although I was zoning out, I could still catch Wenru looking over at my paper out of the corner of my eye, with a slight smirk. I subtly shifted my test paper a bit closer to her to make it easier for her to peek at my answers. A moment later, when the homeroom teacher walked away from the lectern passing by my seat, I put on a surprised and puzzled expression, and in a voice loud enough for the teacher to overhear, I said to Wenru, isn't it hard to copy like that? Should I just write it for you? Before Wenru could react, the homeroom teacher had already turned around and walked over to our seats, looking down at us. What's going on here? Wenru was quick to respond. I was just tired and looking out the window to rest my eyes. I shrugged helplessly. Maybe you should check the surveillance. Teacher, I don't know what to say. The teacher stood there, pulled out his phone, and started checking the surveillance. After a moment, he collected Wenru's paper from her desk and said coldly, having a top student as your desk mate isn't meant for cheating during tests. You don't need to continue the exam. Go stand outside and wait for your punishment. All eyes in the classroom turned to us, and Wenru's face turned pale with a mix of shame and anger, shooting me a fierce look. I gave her a radiant smile. Only when she stood up and walked out reluctantly did everyone turn their eyes back to their own papers, except for one gloomy gaze that remained fixed on me. The afternoon after the test was another PE class, used for rehearsal for a performance at the school celebration a week later. Our class had submitted a proposal for a ballroom dance. The teacher gave us 10 minutes to choose our dance partners, insisting on mixed-gender pairs for aesthetics. Unsurprisingly, most of the boys, blushing, approached Wenru only to be met with her smiling and shaking her head. She was waiting for the most outstanding boy in our class. Zhou Ji stood with his hands in his pockets for a while before finally walking towards her, passing by Wenru without even noticing her astonished look. He stopped in front of me. He glanced down slightly, looked at me with drooping eyes, then extended the hand I had once injured, palm open. With a smirk and a hint of disdain, he slowly asked, Miss Top Student, would you like to be my dance partner? The surprised gazes of our classmates converged on us. As if unable to believe there could be any interaction between us, I pulled out a smile, though it didn't reach my eyes. and gently placed my hand in his. Please, brother Zhou, teach me well. He suddenly clenched his fingers, gripping my knuckles tightly, painfully. I winced in pain but made no sound. After enjoying my pained expression, he finally loosened his grip, still smiling, but his eyes gradually turned cold. I've seen your true colors now, crazy girl. During the music-filled practice time, Zhou and I lightly held hands, exchanging dance steps back and forth. I placed my left hand on his shoulder, but he didn't wrap his arms around my waist as expected. Zhou's face was expressionless, his gaze on my face enigmatic. After a moment, he finally spoke. Do you really dislike me? Looking into his eyes, I saw only murkiness. I masked my distaste, my lips parting slightly, my eyes innocently wide as I dodged the question. Zhou, why won't you hold me? His eyes narrowed slightly, his tone casual. If I don't hold you, will you not dance? I replied calmly. It's the rule. I don't want us both to be punished. He scoffed and turned his head away. Such a good student. I flipped my right hand, interlocking our fingers and pulling his hand to rest on my waist. Zhou's body tensed, his cool gaze fixed on me, though he made no move to pull away. As the melody soared, Zhou's grip tightened. He led me in the dance, swirling around until, at the climax, he pulled me back, locking me tightly against him. Then, he straightened my chin, forcing me to look up at him, a slight smirk on his lips. Though you're mad, you look much cuter now than when you bury yourself in your studies. I didn't resist, my expression unchanged. You're hurting me. Only then did Zhou let go, but not before flaunting a wound not yet fully healed. Does it hurt? Remember, you're the one who gave this to me. I gently touched the wound, my fingertips caressing the surrounding skin, a light laugh escaping me. It's quite beautiful. The skin had torn open. A rose-colored wound, indeed beautiful. It's just a pity that the blade hadn't struck Zhou's heart. With a complex expression, Zhou withdrew his hand, his tone no longer cold but more like a murmur to himself. Jiang Yan, you truly are mad. After school, I didn't pack up but sat at my desk, twirling my pen over a finished test paper. Jiang waited for me by the classroom door as usual, holding several books. I got up and walked over leisurely. You don't have to wait for me, go home first. I'll come after I finish my homework. Jiang frowned. Can't you do it at home? Catching a glimpse of Wenru watching me from not too far away, I smiled. Once I start on my problems, I can't stop, otherwise, I lose my train of thought. Go ahead. Jiang had no choice but to agree, rubbing my head firmly. Be safe and come home early. He didn't spare Wenru an extra glance as he passed by her. In this timeline, my interference also affects Jiang judgment. Now, I no longer worry fearfully that Jiang might fall for Wenru as he did in the past. However, those nightmare-like flashes from the past life, along with the recorded audio I had saved, kept reminding me that the wicked must pay a price. Not long after Jiang left, I packed my bag, tapped Xian Qiu's desk, exchanged a look with her, and left the school alone. Sure enough, it wasn't long before a group of people began to slowly follow me, keeping a certain distance. As I reached a less populated area, someone suddenly grabbed me by the neck from behind. Then, a menacing crowd surrounded me. The one who had grabbed me was, of course, the gang leader from before. She laughed dangerously, whispering in my ear, "Little sister, didn't anyone ever tell you that classmates should help each other? Telling tales on your classmates to the teacher is a very shameful thing, you know." After she finished speaking, she grabbed my hair and dragged me into the alley. It was that abandoned residential building again. I stumbled into the open area, and when I looked up, Wenru was already standing there. Before I could steady myself, someone kicked the back of my knees, and I fell to my knees in front of Wenru. Looking down at me, Wenru tilted my chin up with her fingertips. Jiang Yan, you must be quite happy today. You made me lose face in public. And then you flirted with Zhou during gym class. Do you really enjoy slapping me in the face? How should I punish you? She chuckled softly, and someone yanked my hair back painfully. Wenru raised her hand and slapped me across the face, her long nails scratching a red mark on my cheek, followed by another slap. You should be kowtowing and begging for mercy. Upon hearing this, the gang leader pressed my head down forcefully, smashing my forehead against the ground mixed with gravel. Fists and slaps rained down on my body, causing immense pain accompanied by ringing in my ears. It hurt so much. Did my brother feel the same when he was beaten up in this alley? Wenru picked up a plastic can of drink from the ground, shook it, and poured it over my head, the coldness piercing to the bone. Struggling to lift my head, I looked at Wenru with a smile forming at the corner of my mouth. My lips moved. What did you say? Wenru raised her eyebrows and leaned in closer to hear me. I let out a muffled laugh from my throat. I said, your face is so ugly it's blinding. Her face twisted in anger, and she continued to slap me. Tired of hitting me, they started to strip off my clothes, and then took out a mobile phone, smiling brightly. I wonder what everyone would think if they saw our top student looking like this. My clothes were half torn when suddenly noises came from the alley. The gang girls cautiously stopped and looked outside. Weakly lying on the ground, I gazed toward the direction of the noises, breathing heavily, yet feeling a rush of satisfaction. The gang leader kicked me twice more and then suggested to Wenru, let's not stay here, it's not safe, let's go to the old place. Laughter spread among the group again. I was taken to the Blossom Bar. The bar was noisy and dark, with only sporadic neon lights shining on my face, hardly drawing any attention. Even if someone noticed, it seemed to be just another usual scene. I was pushed into a booth, and when Rue sat beside me, lighting a cigarette, she smiled at the gang leader and said, didn't you say the boss sells that kind of drug? Go get some and let's test it on our little guinea pig. Understanding her hint, the gang leader left and soon returned with a small transparent plastic bag containing the drug. She patted my face. Open your mouth. Uncertain of what the drug was, I kept silent and just stared at her coldly. The gang leader laughed dismissively and slapped my face. I fucking told you to open your mouth. When Rue sneered and pressed the lit cigarette onto the back of my hand, the searing pain made me scream in agony. Just as the gang leader was about to shove the pill into my mouth, a low, hoarse male voice reached my ears. What are you doing? I looked up and met Zhou eyes. Zhou appearance was unexpected, and the wet bang scattered in front of my eyes hid the excitement in them. It was all too perfect. Zhou had already taken off his school uniform, dressed casually in a baggy black t-shirt, topped with a baseball cap. His gang stood behind him, looking over with keen interest. I immediately recognized the thug who had stabbed my brother to death. Zhou, when Rue exclaimed in shock, her face turning pale. Zhou merely glanced at her before shifting his gaze to my face, his expression unreadable. After a moment of silence, he spoke in a cold tone, leave this guy to me. The gang leader was naturally displeased, and though she was annoyed, she could tell Zhou was not someone to be trifled with. She patted Zhou on the shoulder. Brother, stay out of our business. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhou grabbed her fingers and twisted them outward. The gang leader cursed in pain. Meanwhile, Zhou's face remained stern as he gave a cold laugh. Who's your brother? When Rue quickly pulled the gang leader back, feigning composure as she addressed Zhou, it was Jiang Yan who provoked me first, and my friend was just teaching her a lesson. We meant no harm. If you still want to play, this one's yours. Zhou didn't even look at her and simply said one word, scram. When Rue and her gang left, and Zhou came to sit next to me, he remained silent. And a youngster from the gang jokingly broke the silence. Brother Zhou, who is this? A whistle sounded, and another person laughed. Who else could make Brother Zhou play the hero but her? Amid the teasing, Zhou didn't even frown but looked at me casually, his eyes playful. He said sternly, any more nonsense, and you can scram too. The others wisely fell silent. I maintained calm eye contact with Zhou, although my gaze didn't settle. And I kept an eye on the thug who had killed Jiang Heng. He looked ordinary but had fierce and sinister eyes. The rest were relaxed, drinking and smoking. Only he sat with a stern face, lost in thought. As I was still distracted, Zhou's hand reached my face, forcing me to refocus. His fingertips slid across my cheek, tracing the distinct marks of a slap. Not very good at frenzying, are you? Look at the state you've gotten yourself into. His tone was mockingly playful. I smiled and lowered my lashes, placing my hand over his on my cheek, my tone slightly sarcastic. Are you going to avenge me? Zhou seemed amused by the idea. Avenge you? What would you do for me? I didn't respond, just gently held his fingers. Zhou didn't pull away, his gaze intense. Aren't you afraid I might ask for something excessive? I raised an eyebrow. How excessive? Want to sleep with me? Zhou stiffened, his expression darkening, and he gripped my wrist in return. You really have a way with words, always surprising me. I had never really intended for Zhou to avenge me. Realizing that staying here was a waste of time, I forcefully broke away and stood up to leave. Zhou showed no reaction, and as I walked past the gang, someone grabbed my arm, smirking cheekily. Sister-in-law, leaving so soon? Why not stay a bit longer? I was about to shake him off when Zhou Ji's deep voice came from behind. "Don't touch her." The man reluctantly let go. As I passed the thug, he was looking down at his phone. I quickly glanced at him without a trace, other than having heavy dark circles. There was nothing remarkable about his appearance, and on his phone screen, the details show a transfer payment from a balance. The balance displayed is only a few dollars, however, it shows numerous large expenditures in whole numbers at different times. This person is clearly strapped for cash. At least for now. I didn't have time to look closely. As I locked eyes with the young punk, who looked dejected and emotionless, suppressing the urge to stab him, I turned away and left the booth. After leaving the bustling bar, I ignored the astonished looks from passers-by and pulled out a cell phone from my backpack. I put on wireless earbuds and opened the app connected to the remote-controlled recording pen, and pressed the record button. The recording pen, which was tucked away in the backpack before Wenru discovered it, had already been retrieved by me, just moments ago. During the brief confrontation between Zhou Ji and the gang leader, I took advantage of the dim lighting to slip the recording pen back into a crevice beneath the booth's sofa. 14. Brother Zhou, who was that girl just now? She looked quite innocent. It was an unfamiliar voice, still carrying a hint of sleaze. "A lunatic," replied Zhou Ji. "Damn, really? The vibe between you two earlier made me want to move to another spot." Didn't want to interrupt. Ha 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 ha. I walked slowly on my way home, patiently listening to some meaningless chatter. Finally, a different piece of information came through the earphones, in a voice hoarse and a bit frightening. "Brother Zhou, could you lend me some more money?" At this, everyone fell silent, the atmosphere turning dead. After a moment, I heard the click of a lighter. "Didn't I just lend you 20,000 last time?" Zhou Ji's voice sounded emotionless. "Yes. But my mom's really sick, and 20,000 is far from enough. Among all my brothers, you're the only one who can help me." I heard Zhou Ji snicker. 20,000 isn't enough. I'm afraid even 200,000 wouldn't be enough for your spending, Li Si. You know whether you're using the money for your mom's treatment or for gambling." Li Si's voice grew agitated. "I'm not ******ing gambling." Then there was a loud crash of a bottle being smashed. "Li Si, are you ******ing sick? Does Zhou Ji owe you anything?" "Yes, you're not gambling, so tell me how much you borrowed for gambling at those high interest rates, where the daily interest alone must be around 20,000, your mom is almost dying in bed, and you can't even bear to buy her something decent. If it weren't for Zhou Ji continuously paying the hospital bills, your mother would have been in the grave long ago. What the ***** do you care?" The argument was loud, almost painful to my ears. I stood at the base of my apartment building, turned off the recording, and the glass window of the security room reflected my face, disheveled and scarred. Yet, I was smiling. A greedy gambler, under the right circumstances, can also turn into a deadly weapon. Although my home was on the 4th floor, it was a struggle to climb. Gasping for air as if the pain from the beating I received earlier was reconverging in my body, my temples ached, my head felt heavy, and I had to cling to the railing to keep from fainting. Standing in front of my door, I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Jiangheng opened the door, holding a glass of milk. Seeing me, he lost his grip, and the milk spilled all over, shattering the glass on the ground. Ignoring his astonished look, I sighed, wanting to go in and grab a broom to clean up the mess. As I passed him, he grabbed my arm, his hand resting on my shoulder. A hand trembling slightly touched my face. The voice choked up, unable to fully articulate the words. "Shanyan, tell your brother." What happened? I was too weak to resist his touch. I wanted to smile at him, but even that small gesture felt exhausting. Finally, I barely managed to whisper, "Brother, I'll be alright soon," before I passed out. The last thing I saw was Jiangheng's pale and bewildered face. 15. I didn't know how long I had been unconscious, but when I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. Jiangheng was resting his head by my bed, seemingly asleep. I lay there, eyes open, quietly staring at the ceiling. Soon after, my mother came in, one hand filled with bags and the other holding a double-layered thermal bowl. Seeing me awake, she was both shocked and overjoyed, hurriedly placing her things on the cabinet beside my bed, but tears were already falling. "Are you awake, darling? Do you feel discomfort anywhere?" I obediently shook my head. Jiangheng was also awakened by the noise. He looked groggy at first but quickly became alert and reached out to feel my forehead. "Good, no fever." On the side, my mother was calling my father. Telling him I was awake and complaining about how long he took to park the car, Jiangheng stared at me intently. His eyes filled with concern. He brushed the hair from my face, his voice soft. "From now on, I won't let you go home alone." I blinked and gave a faint smile to show I understood. "Tell me, who did this to you?" As he spoke, his expression turned dark, a look I was unfamiliar with. I remained silent, just looking at him. After my mother finished her call, she rushed to my bedside, crying, "Shanyan, tell Mom, who did this? We've reported to the police and tried to check the surveillance footage on your way home, but there was a power outage in that residential area this afternoon, and they couldn't retrieve anything." I shook my head. "Was it someone you don't know?" I nodded. "With no surveillance, there was no evidence. The only evidence was in my hands, and I couldn't just hand it over carelessly. Even after reporting it, it would likely be dismissed as just another case of school bullying. When Rue and those other girls were still minors, and the marks on me were superficial, not even qualifying as minor injuries legally, in the end, it would probably just result in a civil mediation or perhaps a letter of apology." Outside the hospital room, I heard my father's hurried footsteps. He slowed down as he reached the door, his eyes red as he looked at me. Seeing that I was in good spirits, he forced a grim smile. "Our daughter has suffered, let's have something to eat." Since I was not seriously hurt, I was discharged from the hospital that evening and went home. Before bed, Jiangheng brought a cup of warm milk to my bedside, gently saying, "It's the weekend, so just rest at home these next couple of days, and regain your strength before going back to school." I hummed in response. Jiangheng didn't leave. He stood by my bed, his expression solemn, the room almost deadly silent. I was puzzled. "What's wrong?" He leaned closer, gazing into my eyes intently. "Shanyan, don't hide anything from me, no matter what." My eyelashes quivered slightly, and I finally managed a soft "Sleep now." Jiangheng's hand gently covered my eyes. After Jiangja turned off the last dim light and left, I lay in bed staring at the dark ceiling. After waiting quietly for a while, I sat up and pulled out my phone from under the pillow. As soon as I turned it on, I received a video from Xiang Qiu. The video was short, but it clearly showed the fierce faces of Wenru and those few rowdy girls, as well as their violent acts. Below the video, there were a few messages. "Jianyan, I'm sorry, I was too scared. I accidentally made a noise and ran away, so I didn't capture the whole process. Although I don't know what you plan to do, if you need help, please tell me. I will stand by your side without hesitation." I didn't reply. I turned off the phone screen and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next day, Jiangheng had left for work, as had my parents. The house was quiet, leaving me alone. I washed up, backed up the audio recordings from the bar last night, and then completed the exercises in my workbook according to the lesson schedule. After finishing everything, I collapsed back onto the bed and noticed a few messages that had popped up on my phone. One was from Xiang Qiu. "Jianyan, are you okay?" Another was a friend request. The profile picture was a plain Monet gray, with no remarks. I first replied to Xiang Qiu, "I'm fine, don't worry." Then without expression, I accepted the friend request. Immediately, this person sent me a message, just 3 brief words: "Where are you?" I replied, "Who are you?" Of course, I could guess who it was. The person quickly sent a voice message. Upon listening, it was indeed Zhou Ji's deep voice. He said, "Send me your address, I want to see you." I smiled silently at the phone screen, slowly touching the screen. I typed out a message and sent it. "Let's meet at Fanhua Bar." This time, Zhou Ji didn't reply immediately. It took a while before his message came through. "I'm already here." I didn't reply, lay on the bed for a while longer, then slowly got up and changed clothes. When I entered the bar, I spotted Zhou Ji immediately. He was looking down at his phone, his expression dark and intimidating, as I slowly walked towards him. He also looked up and saw me. His brows were furrowed, his expression not pleasant. He squeezed out a few words through clenched teeth. "You're quite punctual." I sat down beside him, my expression indifferent. "My whole body hurts, so I was a bit slow." Zhou Ji was silent for a moment, then could only grunt in acknowledgement. I looked around the bar, which was rather empty on a weekday morning, though there were still some idlers around. I casually asked, "Where are your friends?" Zhou Ji seemed displeased. "Just me. Is that a problem?" I smiled and said offhandedly, "Just curious to know more about you." Hearing this, he slightly curved his lips, picked up the glass on the table, and downed it in one go. Then a phone call later, a group of rowdy youths arrived, arm in arm, including that Li Si, brother Zhou, what do you need?" One of the young men rubbed his hands together, excitedly speaking. Joji stretched an arm out, casually draping it over the back of the sofa behind me. His hand hung casually by my shoulder, easily giving the illusion that he had his arm around me. He glanced at me with a touch of arrogance and said, "Ask them whatever you want to know." Their piercing stares and the blend of tobacco and alcohol fumes enveloped me, making me slightly nauseous. At times, I felt disoriented. I wondered why I was enduring such vulgarities here instead of attending classes amidst the chirping birds and blooming flowers of the school buildings. Pointing to Lisi, who clearly seemed uninterested, I smiled and said, "I'm more interested in him." The room fell silent. I leaned back unintentionally against Joji. Though I wasn't looking at him, I could feel his warm breath near my ear as he whispered, "Isn't there anything you want to ask about me?" Seeing that I remained silent, he scoffed and commanded, "Lisi, answer whatever Jiang asks you." Only then did Lisi look at me. His posture was stooped, his expression gloomy. I remarked lightly, "This brother doesn't seem to like me very much." At that, someone clapped Lisi on the shoulder in a warning manner and chuckled at me. "This kid lost money last night and racked up some debt, so he's in a bad mood. Don't worry, he wouldn't turn on his brothers, right, Lisi?" Lisi remained silent, his gaze still downcast. I leaned closer to Joji and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Just because they call you brother, are you supposed to clean up their messes?" Lisi's gaze snapped up, a flicker of hope on his face as he awaited Joji's response, but Joji remained silent. His subordinate spoke up, frowning, "You don't know, Sister Jiang, Zhou has already been too good to him, lending him money every other day. Which one of us brothers hasn't he borrowed from? This guy is a bottomless pit. His mother was nearly dying and still, he gambled away the hospital fees provided by Zhou." I chuckled softly, "Brother Zhouji really is capable." Zhouji replied indifferently, "Stay out of this, it's dirty." After his comment, a chorus of jeers rose from the surrounding gangsters. I nodded as if conceding, stood up and said, "I'm going to use the restroom." After navigating through a couple of turns and a long corridor, I found the ladies' room. When I came out after washing my hands, Lisi was already waiting by the door. Pretending to be surprised, I exclaimed, "You." He quickly stepped forward, covering my mouth, and pleaded, "Sister Jiang, I know Zhou likes you. Can you please ask him to lend me some more money? I swear I won't gamble again. Debt collectors come to my house every day, and I haven't slept well in a long time. You have a kind heart, and Zhou isn't short on money. If you ask him, he will definitely agree. I beg you, I beg you." After saying this, Lisi actually knelt down before me. I stared emotionlessly at the top of his head, my mind replaying the scene of Jiangheng being stabbed to death. Was it necessary for a group of thugs to bring knives to beat up a student? No matter the circumstances, Lisi was a gambler, and his monetary disputes with Zhouji were inevitable. Violent debt collection, a sick family member, and being penniless could drive anyone to desperation. I swallowed my speculations. Even if Lisi would eventually turn against Zhouji, that day was still too late for me. I didn't have the patience. I sighed, crossed my arms, and leaned against the wall, saying helplessly, "You really put me in a difficult position by saying this. Instead of humbly asking Zhouji for money, it would be better to first tightly grasp the resources already at your disposal." The daily hospitalization fee at the city center hospital is about 1,500, isn't it? That adds up to nearly 10,000 a week. Since Zhouji is willing to cover this expense for you, why not take this initial gambling stake and give it another shot? It's a dead end either way. If I were you, I'd just go for broke. If you win, you'll have carved out a new path for yourself. After all, when luck has bottomed out, even the heavens will start looking out for you. After saying this, I bent over, patted Lisi on the shoulder, and whispered in his ear, "I believe in you." I came out of the restroom, glanced at the clock near the bar, and realized it was time for lunch. I originally planned to signal from a distance with a gesture, telling Zhouji I was about to leave. After all, that group of people, sitting there in their filthy circle, even coming near them felt unlucky. But in a blink of an eye, I saw Zhouji leaning against the wall near the door, half his face hidden in the darkness, obscure and indistinct. He saw me, smiled slightly, and extended his hand. "Let's go have lunch." I followed him out, walking up to a black, heavily modified Harley-Davidson motorcycle. He placed a brand new pink helmet on my head and gestured for me to get on. I stood there, a complex expression on my face, hesitating. Zhouji's eyebrows raised slightly. "Are you scared?" I reminded him. "We're still underage." his expression became more defiant. "Don't worry, even if we get stopped by traffic police, no one would dare to touch me." He had an air of entitlement, as if it was his natural right, the same cruel and indifferent demeanor he had when he told the police, "I didn't know he had a knife." In a previous life, he hadn't even frowned over my brother's death, as if it was a trivial matter. "Joji, how could you go unpunished?" I smiled softly. "Impressive, indeed." Then I swung my leg over, climbed onto his bike, wrapped my arms around his waist, and rested my face against his back. "Then I'm in your hands." Joji caressed the back of my hand briefly, then patted it, accelerating the motorcycle down the road. For the remainder of the afternoon, he took me to a high-end restaurant, a cable car to the cloud tops, and a misty field of flowers. I ate without tasting, and had no interest in accompanying him on his excursions, my mind wandering on the edge. When he dropped me off at my building in the evening, I got off the bike, removed the helmet, and handed it back to him. He frowned. "Did you really not enjoy our date?" I lifted my eyelids, gave him a mocking smile. "So, this was a date? I thought we were just playing house." Joji's face suddenly darkened, and in a fit of anger, he slammed his fist down on the bike, gritting his teeth. "Jiang Yan, you really irritate me." I smiled, turned, and headed home. That night, in my room, typing on the computer, someone knocked on the door. I shouted, "Come in." Jiang Heng entered carrying a plate of sliced fruit, placed it on my desk, and spoke with a smile in his voice. "You're still interested in programming?" Without looking up, I replied, "Just bored." Picking it up casually, "You're entering the informatics competition." I paused, then reluctantly nodded. "Pretty impressive," he said. "Do you want to get into Tsinghua or Peking University?" Jiang Heng was obviously teasing me, and I was happy to joke around with him. I rolled my eyes, pretending to be hesitant. "Tsinghua, maybe." His eyes crinkled more at the corners as he smiled. "Ambitious, aren't you? Then I'll have to work hard too, to join my little sister at Tsinghua." The following week was uneventful. I attended classes methodically and walked to and from school with Jiang Heng punctually. When Ru occasionally played pranks on me, like gluing my seat or pouring the water from my bottle into my backpack, I took all these pranks in stride. Since our separation last Saturday, Joji had been unusually cold towards me. Even during the dance practice and PE class, he kept a stern face and remained silent. However, during the crescendo of the melody, as I spun into his arms, I could catch a glimpse of his blushing ears. The school's 160th anniversary celebration was set for the second Friday after the school year started. Z Middle School, being a key high school, hosted a grand celebration, trees heavy with fruit, a celebration of life. Rooms filled with orchids, painting a shared blueprint. The alumni garden tour for the celebration had more than 30,000 reservations. This included many notable alumni, from officials at various levels to entrepreneurs big and small. The biggest highlight was undoubtedly Gon Lin, an alumnus from the class of '86, who had appeared on the Forbes billionaires list and had donated 5 buildings to Z Middle School. Additionally, the celebration would be broadcast globally, providing the most direct and timely coverage of the campus activities. The live broadcast reservations reached over 100,000 people, and the number of WeChat shares of the event reached 180,000. It was undoubtedly a magnificent feast. On the day of the celebration, after the torch relay tradition, it was time for the cultural performance we had been rehearsing for a week. When it was our class's turn, the melody of the waltz filled the air. This time, Joji properly held my waist, moving forward and back in step with the music. At the climax, he pinched my waist hard, his eyes and brows carrying a sharp, mischievous smile. I merely glanced at him indifferently. During the 160th anniversary ceremony, as usual, a documentary about the century-long history of Z Middle School was played on a large screen. After the host passionately finished the speech, the big screen lit up. Everyone smiled and applauded. However, the next moment, the faces of when Ru and her gang appeared on the big screen. In the video, she was laughing viciously, cursing as she furiously slapped someone's face. The audience's expressions changed, some screamed, and many murmured and pointed. They didn't know who the person being beaten was. This wasn't the first time I watched from a third-person perspective as they punched, kicked, tore at my clothes, and slapped me, but this time, an unparalleled sense of satisfaction rose in my heart. The effect of the video projected on the big screen was clearer than I had imagined. As their actions grew more cruel, the crowd's anger surged like a river overflowing its banks, suddenly breaking free. That's when Ru, the transfer student from class 2 of the second year. Damn, she looks so pretty, how can she be so venomous, she doesn't deserve to be at our school, send her to jail, go to hell, murderer. Amidst the countless curses, when Rue lunged at me, her eyes red with rage. She tightly grasped my neck. You bitch, it must be you, you want to ruin my life, even if I go to hell, I'll drag you down with me. I didn't struggle, watching her nearly frenzied state, I restrained myself to avoid bursting into excited laughter. Naturally, the students around us pulled Wenru away from me, as she made her desperate attack. Everyone then knew that I was the victim in the video. The security team arrived just in time, after they subdued and removed Wenru. The noise at the venue still lingered for a long time. Many people surrounded me, offering their sympathy, concern, and pity, which I accepted with smiles. Among the crowd, I saw Jiangheng struggling to push through the throng and run in my direction, but the next second, another person grasped my wrist. As I looked up, I met Zhou Ji's cold, stern gaze. He said, "Come with me." I followed him. I didn't look back at Jiangheng. "Sorry, brother, I'll be back soon." Zhou Ji pulled me out of the crowd and we ran out of the campus. Since it was the school's anniversary, there was a high volume of people entering and exiting the campus, and we were in our ballroom dance attire, so the security did not stop us. He led me to a Harley motorcycle, helped me put on a helmet, and simply said, "Get on." I obeyed. The motorcycle sped away, eventually stopping at the entrance of the Blossom Bar. Zhou Ji, holding me, entered without a word. Inside, the usual faces of some familiar thugs greeted us, but Zhou Ji ignored them. He chose a private booth and called over the front desk, ordering every type of alcohol on the menu, cheap and expensive alike. I frowned. "I don't drink." Zhou Ji, not looking at me, said, "If you can't, you can learn. When I'm upset, I drink. It helps me feel better." I smiled. "How did you know I'm not happy?" Then he finally allowed his gaze to rest on my face, deep and focused. "You've been wronged." I raised an eyebrow. "Aren't you going to avenge me?" Zhou Ji gave me a deep look and firmly said, "I will." I turned away from him to face the waiter. "I want a fruit platter." The waiter nodded with a smile and withdrew. Shortly after, an array of colorful cocktails and a beautifully arranged fruit platter were served, each piece of fruit cut neatly and served with a fork. I frowned slightly, casually saying, "Isn't there a knife?" The waiter, puzzled, responded, "Miss, the fruit is already cut for you, you can eat it with a fork." I smiled calmly, "But I prefer using a knife, preferably a sharp one, it tastes better that way," Zhou Ji said sternly from beside me. "Do it." The waiter nodded and soon brought a knife. Watching me play with the fruit with the knife, Zhou Ji chuckled. Childish, I rested my head on my hand, bored, as Zhou Ji wrapped his arm around me, his fingertips twirling a lock of hair by my ear. Suddenly, a commotion at the entrance of the bar caught my attention. Li Si rushed in, tripping and stumbling as if desperately seeking refuge. Seeing Zhou Ji, he seemed to find a lifeline. He knelt at Zhou Ji's feet with a thud, clutching his legs, his voice trembling. "Zhou, brother Zhou, you must save me this time." Zhou Ji frowned, clearly impatient. About to speak but was interrupted by a loud noise. A group stormed into the bar, led by a boss wielding an iron rod, sporting a crew cut, a white tank top, and notably tattooed arms. The disturbance began with someone deliberately smashing a few bottles of wine to create a commotion before slowly meandering up to Zhou Ji. With a tone dripping with disdain, he said, "Well, what a surprise to see young Master Zhou here." Zhou Ji's followers quickly gathered around him in a protective stance, only to be pushed back by the henchmen of the tattooed boss. The scene grew chaotic. Zhou Ji calmly patted my hand, his eyes flashing a hint of fierce determination. Without wasting words, the tattooed boss pressed a metal rod against Li Si's head and growled, "I'm not here to make things difficult, just hand over this deadbeat dog who owes money, and we're good." Zhou Ji glanced at Li Si and replied indifferently, "He's my friend." The tattooed boss scoffed. "Look Zhou, no offense, but what kind of person like you befriends a scumbag who gambles away his own mother's life-saving money? I really think less of you now." Zhou Ji froze, his brows furrowing darkly. "What did you say?" Eager to clarify, the tattooed boss leaned in closer and enunciated each word. "This scumbag used his mother's hospital money for gambling, claiming he could pay me back. Now, his mother has been decomposing at home for days. Do you get it?" As soon as the tattooed boss finished speaking, Zhou Ji grabbed Li Si by the collar and swung a heavy punch at him. Li Si fell to the ground, and just as he tried to get up, Zhou Ji yanked him back to his feet and landed another fierce punch. The glass on the table shattered, and a knife fell to the floor. Zhou Ji's voice was terrifyingly grim as he hissed through clenched teeth, I gave you money for your mother's hospital bills, and this is how you use it. Trembling and pale, Li Si stammered, Brother Zhou, let me explain. Before he could finish, Zhou Ji slapped him again. The tattooed boss stood by, arms crossed, watching the drama unfold with glee. As Zhou Ji raged, the temperature around them seemed to drop. He kicked Li Si repeatedly in the stomach. After venting his anger, Zhou Ji crouched down, grabbed Li Si by the hair, and whispered fiercely, You're nothing but lifelong trash. He then stood up, straightened his disheveled suit, and said coolly to the tattooed boss, He's yours now. Li Si lay gasping on the ground, his body twitching like a writhing maggot. From my angle, I could clearly see the despair and raging hatred in his expression. He glared at Zhou Ji's retreating figure as if trying to bore a hole through him. The room was dim. I stretched out my leg and discreetly kicked the knife toward Li Si. Seizing the knife, Li Si struggled to his feet and charged at Zhou Ji, plunging the knife deep into him, shocked. The tattooed boss cursed and reacted, Damn it. Kill this lunatic. People rushed to restrain Li Si, who had completely lost his mind, stabbing Zhou Ji repeatedly while hurling vile curses. By the time they subdued him, Zhou Ji was already clutching his abdomen, pale and collapsed on the floor, feigning shock and fear. I rushed to Zhou Ji's side and cradled him in my arms. Jiang Yan, in pain, Zhou Ji could hardly speak. He gasped for air and weakly pulled my head down towards his lips, but now, his strength was fading. I obediently lowered my head and softly asked, Are you okay? Zhou Ji didn't speak again, he just focused on me, and as our lips were about to touch, I turned my head and couldn't help but let out a light laugh. His expression was full of confusion and grievance, like a child whose beloved toy had just been stolen. I leaned in close to his ear, my voice low, This is the extreme pain of a knife piercing your body. Remember this feeling deep in your bones. Blood continuously flowed from Zhou Ji's body. Under the neon lights, it looked like a rose-colored exquisite piece of art. He stared at me with wide eyes as I gently caressed his face, looking deeply into his eyes. Zhou Ji, in your next life, live kindly, since the law cannot judge you, let God do the judging. Zhou Ji's body relaxed, motionless, his final expression a mix of fear and confusion. I didn't want to look anymore. I reached out and gently closed his eyes. After giving a brief statement to the police, I stood at the entrance of the police station, where Jiangheng came to pick me up. He looked at me indifferently, following his gaze down to the horrifying bloodstain on my pristine white dress. It was Zhou Ji's blood. I looked up, opened my mouth, but in the end, I just called out, Brother. Jiangheng didn't respond. He simply took off his coat, wrapped it around my waist, and tied it, perfectly covering the bloodstain. After doing this, he put his arm around my shoulders and said blankly, Let's go home. As the sky darkened, Jiangheng and I walked shoulder to shoulder in silence, each keeping to an unspoken agreement. I wondered how to explain everything to Jiangheng when he asked, and where to even start. Should I begin with the absurd time reversal that even I couldn't understand? Should I tell him that he had already died once, and everything I did was for his revenge? The word revenge popped into my mind, and I suddenly found it ironic. Even I couldn't clarify whether what I did was for revenge or redemption. My thoughts drifted, but were pulled back by Jiangheng's question. That afternoon, did you really just go to buy alcohol and band-aids? I wasn't surprised, just calmly replied, No. Jiangheng hummed, sort of chuckled, and muttered to himself, Dragged into an alley and suffered like that, yet you wouldn't tell me the truth. You deliberately learned programming to hack into the school's computer during the anniversary celebration and swap that video. Do you not trust your brother? I was taken aback, shook my head immediately, feeling a whirlwind of emotions, but couldn't find the words to speak. It's okay. Jianheng raised his hand, gently stroking my head. It's all in the past now. I don't want to guess those puzzles anymore. Whatever is troubling you, forget all about it. I will take you forward. The video from the anniversary day had been streamed live and clips had been shared online. The bullying incident featuring when Ru dominated the trending searches for several days. Under public pressure, the education authorities and police reacted swiftly. Many well-known alumni expressed their condemnation of bullying on social media. Z Middle School urgently established an anti-bullying association. When Ru was expelled, as she was a minor and the injuries she inflicted were legally considered minor, she did not face any administrative punishment. After all, the law is not swayed by public opinion. However, some netizens found her phone number and home address through unconventional means. The Kinder ones sent abusive messages, while others went as far as sending dead cockroaches and rats to her doorstep. It was said that the companies and workplaces of Wenru's parents and relatives were affected, all having been suspended. Wenru, driven to a mental breakdown and severe depression, was admitted to a psychiatric hospital by her parents. As for the truth and the lies, that is a story for another time. On this particular weekend, I was in my room copying notes when there was a knock on the door. I raised my voice and called out, "Come in." Jiangheng entered, slinging a backpack over one shoulder and cradling several workbooks in his arms, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth as he raised an eyebrow and suggested, "Let's head to the library." I was full of complaints. I just pulled an all-nighter finishing some test papers yesterday. Can't I at least rest for a bit? Jiangheng spoke earnestly. After all, we need to get into drawl. 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 We need to get into